Hi, Tim.
Hi.
What do you think is responsible for the enduring love for Thrawn?
I guess probably that he's a clever villain. People like reading about clever, interesting opponents to our heroes. People who are able to outthink, outmaneuver, as well as outfight. Ultimately, the heroism of the hero is measured by the villainy or the power of the villain. And with Thrawn, I wanted somebody different than the Force-using Vader or Palpatine, somebody who doesn't have Luke's Force powers, but can run him around in a maze whenever he really wants to.
Now, while his death was very well done, do you ever wish at times you hadn't killed them all?
The main reason, well, two main reasons I killed off Thrawn were, first of all, if the villain escapes, there's no closure. Vader escaping from Battle of Yavin, we all knew, okay, the saga's not over yet. Lucas didn't know he was going to have the ability to make the next two movies, but still you knew it was not closed yet. The villain is still there. And I wanted these books to have a closure, end this section of the New Republic history. And secondly, if Thrawn escapes, realistically the New Republic is doomed, because he will eventually beat them. And I knew that that's not really what the fans are looking for in a Star Wars saga.
Now, you have said that if ever he was needed for some reason, they could always bring back one of his clones. And lately, Paul S. Kemp has been doing a lot of stuff with clones. You ever felt the need to do another clone story?
Not really. I mean, the idea of clones lends itself to cheating. Just as you know, the comic book thing, you never kill off a villain, no matter how bad it looks for Dr. Octopus. You know he'll be back eventually. The ability to make clones means you don't, again, that closure thing. If you can bring back a clone of your villain or a clone of your hero, it diminishes it in some sense. So I would rather have not had the clone things at all. However, since George had already talked about the Clone Wars, it's clear that technology exists and you can't simply ignore it. The best you can do is try to use it in a way that's not cheating to the readers. That said, you know, there are things you might be able to do that would be interesting. It wouldn't be just bringing back the villain or a hero or somebody. And if I came to something like that, it might be something to think about.
Now, how do you say Pelion? That's how it's...
Pelion.
Pelion?
Pelion. Or Pelion, with a slight A sound. You notice the great vowel shift in Star Wars. You've got Lando and Landau, Han, Han, Leia, Leia. So clearly, whether it was intended that way or not, you can see there are differences in pronunciation throughout the galaxy, which is actually a nice little touch.
How does it feel to be the creator of two of the most universally popular EU characters, Mara and Thrawn?
Oh, it feels exciting, gratifying, and humbling all at the same time. A writer never knows which of his characters or books is going to capture the reader's imagination. And I try to make Thrawn and Mara as memorable and as real and as emotionally connecting as I could, but there's no guarantee that that's going to actually work. So it's always a surprise and really cool when something like that happens.
Now, Scoundrels is set to come out in December. It's been touted as a Han Solo Ocean's 11 story. Stepping away from Thrawn and Mara, how fresh did this story feel? Was it a nice change of pace?
It's a nice change of pace. I talked about clones being easy to cheat with. That also happens with force powers. It's sometimes a little easy to use a force power to get out of whatever problem you've got. Scoundrels has no force users. We're normal people, and it's a little bit different sort of thing because it's a heist book. It's very much, as you said, in Ocean's 11. In fact, my original title was Solo's 11 before we changed it to Scoundrels. It was a nice change of pace. It's heist books and movies tend to be puzzle box type of things. How are we going to arrange everything to get through these defenses, through this impenetrable, into this impenetrable safe or whatever? And I like doing puzzle box stories. I like the manipulation. I like the setups, the trying to have the villain and the heroes be equally clever, except the heroes are just a little bit more clever, so they have the edge. So it's a bit of a departure. The other thing we were going for is because it's set right after A New Hope, all you need to know are the classic Star Wars movies. You don't need to know any of the other expanded universe. Han, Leia, or Han, Chewie, and Lando are the three main characters. Most of the rest are originals. There are Winter has shown up in some of the EU, and Kel Tainer has shown up in some of the EU books, but you don't need to know anything about them. These, if you don't know their names, fine, you'll get introduced to them here.
Now, one thing that shows up in your works a lot is the use of new alien species and new worlds. And people have noticed that and said that it makes the universe seem larger. Is that intentional?
Oh, yeah. George did the same thing in the movies. If you look and count how many, certainly in the classic, the whole series, how many worlds you actually see, it's really not as many as you think it is. Because we've got throwaway lines. We've got talking about Dantooine. We're talking about Ord Mantell. We talk about several of them, so it gives the illusion that the stage is bigger than he's actually shown. And that's, again, sort of the thing you can do even more cheaply, since you don't have to have a special effects department in a book. You can throw out other planets, you can visit them briefly, give the sense of size of the galaxy. Yeah, and that's part of the excitement of Star Wars, is that it's such a huge place to work and play.
In your opinion, who's the funniest Star Wars character?
Oh, the funniest has to be 3PO. Although, if you want to talk about witty, Han is pretty good up there. But Luke and Leia and all of them get some good zingers every once in a while. I have a suspicion that R2 is a lot wittier than we think, but we will never know.
Have you ever seen that the picture where they got R2 and they caption it saying R2's got the filthiest mouth in Star Wars because they bleep out everything he says?
Yes, I've seen that.
Now, Kel Tainer shows up in Scoundrels, and Aaron Alston has remarked that he was kind of sorry that nobody used his characters that he created in Race Squadron afterwards. So, what drew you to pulling Kel Tainer out of the toy box?
I needed an explosives expert pilot, someone who knows something about droids, and I wanted to bring in something from the EU, if I could, that wouldn't again be confusing to people who hadn't read any of their books. So I looked through the Wikipedia article on Race Squadron, narrowed it down to Kel, and at a convention I asked Aaron if these characteristics would work for a young Kel. And he seemed to think it would. We discussed a little bit about what I was going to do with him. And it's just kind of a first appearance type of thing. He will go on to be in Race Squadron. So we've sent the book to Aaron. I don't know if he ever had a chance to read the Kel parts, but I know he hasn't. If he did, he hasn't had any feedback or I got anything wrong. Hopefully I didn't get anything wrong. But yeah, just a kind of a link there for those who know the character, but again, something that's not distracting if you don't.
Now, there's going to be some new faces in Scoundrels. Do you think any of them will become fan favorites?
As I said about Mara and Thrawn, I have no idea. I hope so. There's some good characters there, some people who should capture the imagination and should connect to, but I would not ever suggest that, oh yes, this person is going to link up. I will hope, I'll keep my fingers crossed, sometime in January I'll start getting the feedback.
So what's the best thing you've seen at Celebration 6 so far?
Oh, you want me to narrow it to one? Oh,
well, you can say several. You can say several.
Oh, we just did the Rancho Obi-Wan experience. That was great fun. I I don't know, just seeing everything, all the Star Wars fans. It's kind of after you've done a lot of conventions, you start, at least I start looking around, and something Star Wars will catch my eye. Some person in a Star Wars outfit or whatever. Well, here that's an easy game to win because everything is Star Wars. It's just nice to kind of occasionally just do the whole Star Wars thing. See the Stormtroopers, see the Leias, see the Hans, costumers, all the cool merchandise that we can't afford all of it, unfortunately, or couldn't get it home if we did. It's just, it's fun to do this.
When telling a story, what do you do to keep it fun?
Well, it has to be fun for me. If it's not fun for me, it's not going to be fun for the readers, I don't think. I just try to be enthusiastic, excited about what I'm writing. Generally, that's not a problem. Even on occasional books where I've started in with, I don't know, I'm not really excited about this book, I'll work through the outline, work through the details, start building the characters, and invariably I start getting excited. Okay, this is going to be a fun story to tell. Some stories just pop right out of the box with, this is going to be fun. Scoundrels is one of those. But if it's fun for me, it'll be fun, I hope, for everybody else.
Now, what part of the writing process do you find hardest?
Hardest is the whole thing of translating my vision into words. Because I will generally have an idea of what I want to do, and then getting that out so that other people can see what's in my head, and making the whole thing coherent, making it all hold together, making it logical, putting in all of the foreshadowing and the pieces the readers will need, because the reader needs to be able to solve the problem when the characters do.
Now, is that all during the outlining process or afterwards?
It starts in the outlining, and the major stuff is fixed in the outlining. Some of the pieces, I'm not sure where they're going to go. I will work on those in the actual, the final writing of it. A lot of pieces I come up with those later on.
What part do you find easiest to write?
Well, once I've got the whole idea and everything, actually, if dialogue is one of the easiest things for me. It used to be the hardest when I first started out, but now it's one of the easiest, especially when I know exactly what needs to be said in this conversation.
Now, when you go and write stories, whether it's Star Wars or not Star Wars, do you ever try and challenge yourself with something different?
Well, Scoundrels is a little bit different. Again, thievery sort of thing. I don't know, different in what sense? I try to tell an exciting story. The heroes are up against a big problem. They solve it after going through all sorts of difficulties on the way.
My mind's blanking on the book. The one where it's told from like a first-person perspective. The guy's got like a ship.
Okay, the Icarus Hunt?
Yeah, Icarus Hunt.
We're flying a ship back there. Yes.
Because that one's very different.
Okay, well, different, not just Star Wars books, but different books. I do things a little bit differently with the Conquerors trilogy. The first book is human point of view, second is the alien point of view, and third they go back and forth. First-person books are a little bit different because I don't get to switch points of view, so everything that is seen from one character's point of view. That can be a little limiting, but it can also be more challenging. And playing with ideas in short stories is also fun to do.
So do you like changing it up in between projects?
Yeah, changing it up, trying things a little bit different. I wouldn't want to do Star Wars books exclusively because I know I'd get burned out, and then it stops being fun, and then it stops feeling fun for the readers. And I wouldn't want to do a whole series of Cobra books back to back, but Cobra every year, a Star Wars every 2, 3, 4 years, and I can stay fresh on whichever project I'm on next.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think we've got covered.
All right. Well, thank you.